Welcome, preliminary ghosts, antemortem spirits, and preparatory haunts, to the I'm a Haunt podcast. This episode is called All My Friends Are Skeletons. I am your host, the Nothingmuse. Throughout my childhood, there were many instances of swapping ghost stories, scaring each other, and giving each other the heebie-jeebies between me and my family and friends. It wasn't until I was in my late teens, early 20s, though, that I actually embarked on ghost hunting adventures with friends to pass the time away from the bars. 18 was the legal drinking age in Louisiana at the time, and to get a cheap thrill. For this episode, I am joined by some of the members of my Louisiana ghost hunting crew, my dear friends James, Karen, and Lena. Welcome to I'm a Haunt, my babies.
Hey. Hey.
Hi.
Hello.
All right, so the topic of this episode is seeking out ghosts or haunts as a form of thrill seeking. We all know ghost hunting is big business these days. There are a lot of paranormal investigative shows out there, but back when we were rodeoing around Acadiana, I don't recall this being a thing. We thought we had invented it. There were books with ghost stories, and I remember us consulting Ghosts Along the Bayou by Christine Word, but that's about it. So let's talk about why we decided to make this our thing to do when we didn't feel like clubbing or bar hopping. What is it about hunting ghosts that makes it feel like a legitimate form of entertainment? Your thoughts?
Oh man. The big questions.
Right?
Yeah. I mean, I think we just kept talking about, that house down the street. It just kind of built on itself from what I remember. Like, you talk about one house and then, but do you hear about this house? And, did you hear about this house? And it's in the dark of night. You're out in the middle of the forest, the scary, lonely roads, Mary Jane's Bridge, the whole thing. It's just, that whole experience is like watching a Scooby-Doo episode.
Right, exactly. Like, I think there was actually that element of it for us, was that we thought we were the Scooby-Doo gang.
Didn't we call ourselves that at one point?
I think at one point that might have been floated.
Yeah.
So now I know for James actually went back, and the three major places that we could remember going to was Crasham Point,
Yep,
Sacred Heart Academy, or is it called the Academy of the Sacred Heart?
It's the Academy of the Sacred Heart.
Okay.
It is, but we always said Sacred Heart.
I think
Academy.
we just said Sacred Heart, and then what?
And the church.
You just referenced Mary Jane's Bridge, which I thought it was called Maryland's Bridge, and then I actually went back and looked at Ghosts Along the Bayou by Christine Word. It's Marlin's Bridge.
We always called it Mary Jane Bridge.
Yeah,
though.
I'm like,
yeah.
So it's so weird but that's also part of it, is that it changes. But I know James actually went and did a little research on each one. So James, if you want to go ahead and give us a little background on each of those locations, take it away, my baby.
Yeah, just a little brief history for those that have never visited South Louisiana. You know, it's a haunting place because we have a deep history of slavery is part of it. So the South was built on the backs of African Americans that were abducted and brought into this country and forced into slavery. So we've never rectified that past here, and so it lingers. And these houses are sites for weddings and parties, and it's never been rectified what they were really for. So I think that's part of like the whole folklore of ghost hunting and the psychology behind it. I think we like to be frightened because it's this like primal fright or flight response. And, so that's part of it in the dark of night. And, we know that this residual energy is floating around South Louisiana and it's heavy, and they hung Black people from branches on trees. And, you can still kind of get the silhouette of that from some of the Spanish moss that hangs in the breeze. So, I was just going to give a brief history about these three particular places. Crasham Point is a plantation home that was built in 1835. It's on the banks of the Bayou Bourbeau, and it sits sort of in Sunset and Grand Coteau. It's kind of on the border there. The Battle of Buzzards Prairie was fought in October of 1863, which was part of the Civil War. And the Battle of Bayou Bourbeau was fought in November of 1863, also part of the Civil War. Jean Lafitte was a tenant of Crasham Point for a while. There was a 2015 horror film called The Final Project that was based on the local ghost stories and folklore associated with Crasham Point. So, it's a well-known spot within the community. People talk about the Civil War ghost, soldiers, and they hear screaming and,
Wasn't it also used as a hospital at one point?
Yes,
okay.
It was. And then, Academy of the Sacred Heart was built and founded in 1821. A miracle happened on the site if you believe in Catholicism, which I don't. So I'll say I don't. It involved a Mary Wilson and St. John Birchmans in 1866, and he healed her from some disease. And there's an actual site. It's the only one in the United States where a supposed miracle occurred. So, you have that residual energy and folklore. The Civil War was fought on the grounds of the Academy, and it served as a hospital for the Civil War soldiers. There's a graveyard behind the Academy where generations of nuns are buried. So one of the legacies, because my stepsisters attended the Academy, and back in the day, it used to be like a regular school and a boarding school. They no longer do the boarding portion. But, Salma Hayek was classmates with my sister Dodie for a while. So, and one of the legacies that they talked about, the boarding students used to talk about this headless nun who would sort of float through the halls, and she would scream and close doors. And I did tours of the school and went to plays, and we used to sneak off because back in the day things weren't like guarded and protected. So we would sneak off, and I would go into this chapel that they had, and they had nuns' seats that were like mounted on the walls. And so, when you would walk in there, it was very like solemn, and I wouldn't say sacred, it was haunting. And it would actually get cold in there. Like you could feel that something was going on. So that's a brief history of the Academy. And then in Sunset, there's Marlin's Bridge, who was named after Corporal William Marland, who was involved in the Civil War battle at the site. It's right down the road from Crasham Point. So it's basically on the property. Back in Civil War times, it would have been the plantation. It's said to be haunted by a girl in a white dress. Drivers report their radios turning on and off while crossing the bridge. Orbs of light move across the bridge and nearby fields. And Milena and I took a solo trip, just the two of us down there, and we saw the orb. So, we decided we were going to get out of the car and chase it. And we never could reach it. But it was in the distance, and it wasn't near or far, and it didn't move. It just hovered. And it was the weirdest thing. And Milena and I were both like, what in the fuck are we seeing?
Y'all came back from that.
Yes.
And went, oh my God, this happened. And I remember us going back out to look. We never saw the orb, but I remember us seeing that cascade of the little flickering lights that went across the bridge, and then it disappeared. I remember that. Oh, that gives me chills.
That was the beginning of ghost hunting.
Yeah.
I do not remember at all why the hell James and I just decided to get in the car and fuck off that night and go riding around.
I think we were just gonna like ride around and talk.
Yeah, we were just going out for a talk, and when we saw that, we were like, we're gonna go investigate this. But I remember us digging in the back of your car because we're like, we're not going in a fucking field without a weapon. Trying to find something. And when we couldn't find anything, we were like, okay, we're gonna go back home and we're gonna get weapons.
That's the wooden spoon.
Yes.
Like I think we had a pair of scissors and some wooden spoons.
Like we're gonna cut a ghost, right? Or beat it with a spoon.
I have no idea.
But that was the start of it. And it was, I mean, for me, and again, you know, we're all gonna have our own perspective on it. But for me, you know, we all grew up with ghost stories. I mean, pretty much everybody does, no matter where you're raised, or you know what ethnicity you are, what heritage you have, what religion. No matter where in the world, everybody has ghost stories, and you grow up with them. And so this was, for me, the first time we actually went after it. You know, it was
right.
Instead of like growing up in Port Aransas in Texas, I literally lived in a house next door to what had once been a church. And the house was the house we lived in was the pastor's house. But since they weren't operating it as a church anymore, they were renting it out. And my mom and I lived there. And I used to babysit the kids that lived across the street from the church. And we'd sit on their porch and stare at this church. And we could swear that we could see like shadows and lights in what is the church tower. But there was nobody in it at the time.
Right.
And so we'd tell these stories, but we never did shit about it. We didn't get up and go across the street and like see if we could get, well, okay, so one time we did try to get into the house, and I'm glad we couldn't, because you know that is breaking and entering. But we thought we'd just try the front door, you know, because we were geniuses. We're like, we'll just go try the front door. So, but for me, this going back to the house and getting weapons and going back to the field. First of all, kids, don't try this at home.
Yeah, we were crazy.
We definitely could have gotten our asses killed, because people in Louisiana take property laws very seriously.
And it was the middle of the night.
It was the middle of the night.
It was like
very
2:00
rural
in the morning.
Yeah.
So we
Very
really,
rural.
really could have gotten killed. But
very rural, South
very
Louisiana.
rural.
And this is probably circa 1993. So we're talking 32 years ago,
So,
you know?
But for me, that was it. It was the first time we were ever going to go investigate it. What is it? And so for me, I think that was the appeal of the ghost hunting. Was I'm fond of saying about myself, I keep one foot in each world. I'm skeptical, but you know, I'm open to it, but also I'm going to look and see if there's a logical explanation for it. Exactly.
Yeah.
So this was us actually being proactive and going, what is it? Instead of just going, oh, it's the orbs, and just leaving it at that. We were like, no, let's go try to catch that sumbitch. You know. So I think for me, that was it. It was the logical of, okay, let's go see what it is. And so I think that, but at the same time, there is that thrill of being scared.
Yeah.
And it's appealing. It's like going on a roller coaster. So I know from my perspective, that's kind of, it had that twofold.
And we both saw it. I mean, we were together.
This wasn't me seeing it and trying to convince you or otherwise. It was, we were both like, what the hell is that light out there?
Well, and incidents after that, like the church next door to the church, not the chapel from Sacred Heart, but that church next door. Remember how we walked up to it and then we saw something? It seemed like someone kept falling out of the tower.
Yeah.
Do you remember that, Lena?
Yeah, I do. That's what I remember the most, is walking through the graveyard, and the school was, and they had, y'all told me about the the man falling out, or the priest, I don't remember what, falling from way up high. And we were set in the graveyard watching, like it seemed like we could see something. And then at some other building, they had the window. It's almost like there was somebody in the window, but obviously the building was closed at the night. But I can
Wasn't that so? The window one, wasn't that? I remember us also going, and we always drove back and forth in front of the school, and it has the colonnade on the second level.
Yeah.
And you can, every once in a while, if the lighting's right with like the moon and whatnot, the silhouettes back and forth on the second story balcony. I don't know if you remember that. You would drive your car down to Secret Heart, which was that park next door that the guy owned, and it had the big gate, but he never closed it off because he knew the girls from the school would go and sneak over to the pond. And there's so many stories about that.
But this here is the church that we're kind of talking about.
Yes,
Yes,
Yeah.
that's the church. Yes.
that's the church.
Yes, and it had like a bell tower
Yeah.
Yes.
and a walkabout, like a widow's peak, you
Yeah.
know?
I don't know if I remember it having the window at the top, and that's what we kept seeing.
Mhm.
And we kept going towards it, and I remember us going like crouching down, like we're the Wizard of Oz, going slowly towards the wizard, and we'd get closer and closer, and then and we'd run away.
So that is the church. It's called Church of St. Charles Borromeo. And that's the church. That's the one, it was down the street from the academy. And this is the church in Grey Coteau.
See, that one looks different though. That looks different from the one that I was thinking of.
Okay.
Was by a graveyard, like I can remember us walking through a graveyard.
Yeah.
And we were
there's a
on the
graveyard.
side of it.
Yeah, and the school
Look.
was out on the left, and it seemed like the church was on the right.
Yeah. There's a graveyard behind it, and there's an elementary school to the right.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, I do remember the elementary school. Yeah.
Karen, you got to remember this is 30 plus years have gone by. They've probably done some renovations.
Yeah.
Oh, but like
But
I do remember there was a church right on the corner,
Yeah.
Mhm.
and it had a parking lot, and we
Yeah.
were walking
Yeah.
through the parking lot. Okay.
Yeah.
See, the top, the steeple of that looks
Yeah.
different from what I remember, but
Right.
yeah, sure, 30 years ago.
But I know that the person falling from the window was vivid enough that we actually called the Grand Coteau Police Department when we got
I remember
home
that.
and
Yeah.
said the church is open, because the front door was open,
Yes.
and we think we saw somebody fall. I mean, obviously nothing ever came from it, but
I feel like I need a sweater.
but I remember us calling because we were like, okay, something's going on. Somebody's in the church.
Yeah.
So now, what the hell made us do this? Not just that first night, because the first night I can understand. We were out for a drive. We saw something bizarre and we went, but we continued to do this. So
That first night was a rush, though.
it was a hell of a ride. And I mean, okay, anybody listening to this, to be fair, up until this point, my rush came in the form of Jägermeister, and a lot of it. So this was also an alternative to that. It was an alternative to, going and getting wasted every night. I think that might have played a part, was almost a redemptive, and again, I'm speaking for myself, but almost a redemptive type of situation where I'm not going and sinning.
And it was free.
It's good, clean,
And it was
fun.
free. Yes.
And it was free, and we were broke. So
And
if
at
we
that time, I was kind of straight edge for a while too. So that was my rush.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Yeah.
the free.
Yeah.
Free was a big.
And if we each put 50 cents in for gas, we covered it for the night. Like we
Oh
were good.
God, can you believe that? Can you
Yeah.
believe that?
Yeah.
However,
Because-
I will tell you, I also had my dad's gas card for a little while. You remember that?
Yeah. Yep. And, just so the listeners get some perspective, we're talking 30, 40 minutes from where we lived in Lafayette, so, we were out on the interstate in the middle of the night, broke 19, 20-year-old kids, like, just running them up.
And it was before cell phones.
Yeah.
If anything would have happened to us, we were fucked.
Yeah, we were stuck.
I feel like, though, when I was driving, my car was our defense. It was like our, mobile fortress. We could get back in the car and we were safe.
Yeah.
Yeah, isn't that such a weird thing?
Yes.
That we
Yeah.
all felt that. We all honestly thought if we can just make it back to the car and close the doors, we're fine.
Yeah.
Nothing can get us.
Which there's no logic there.
None whatsoever.
So, do we feel like we actually saw these things, or were we so imaginative that collectively we manifested this?
I feel a little bit of column A and column B myself.
Yeah, I do too. I feel like in Grand Coteau, in that area, that Grand Coteau Sunset area, there are places on Earth where the veil is thinner between the two worlds. And I feel like that definitely is going on in that particular area. And it's so heavy and rooted with this like dark history. And you have these big oak alleys with this swinging moss and this humid summer night with cicada in the background. And it's just so light for your imagination,
And beautiful, darkly beautiful too.
Yes.
I mean, it was inspirational. But I will say, there are other stories that you didn't share, James, about Sacred Heart too, because remember the story that they always were like, oh, that's not true. And then others were saying, oh, actually it is true, about the girls during the Civil War battle on the front lawn, the girls who were trapped in the attic, and then the nun who like flipped out and murdered everyone, and then herself. And so there's the cemetery behind Sacred Heart, and then there's a secret cemetery behind that.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot. That's the thing. It's like, and not even just the slave era itself and the violence from that, but the violence in general. There was a lot of violence towards women, towards, North versus South, towards the Black community and others who were in kind of either slavery or indentured servitude. There's just a lot of violence that
in
happened.
one area,
Yeah,
it like
concentrated.
all came, yeah.
There.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think all of that feeds to setting the stage
Yeah.
for it. Like if you're open to it, it sets
there.
the stage for it. It's, people die everywhere. People die in downtown Manhattan. But you don't necessarily hear about, the ghost of the businessman walking down Wall Street. You know what I mean? It's like, it's a different situation. And even if you were walking down Wall Street at 2:00 in the morning, do you feel the same as if you were walking, down a country lane in the middle of an area that once saw so much bloodshed?
And we were begging it to spare us. Like, that's why we were there.
We definitely.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. Because look, if we'd have done that first night and found out that was just some lantern in the field, we'd have been like, well, this done. Yeah. we wouldn't have continued this.
I mean, I wanted a bloody nun to pop out of somewhere in raggedy gowns and like fucking threaten us with her claws, and
So
I
grim.
yeah.
But it's true. It's the again going back to something pop culture, but I have always done the Fox Mulder. I want to believe.
Yeah.
I want to believe it.
Oh yeah.
But of all of the places that I've lived and all of the history that they've held, I can count on one hand the times where I've actually encountered something that I truly could not logically explain. And so, given my age and the fact that I've lived in, houses that are, over 100 years old, almost 200 years old, the fact that I've lived places where, the Civil War took place, where you have the history of slavery, it just seems bizarre to me that that I've seen so few. And yet there are other people who maybe have never lived in these places that, make a living off of seeing 100 ghosts. And I'm like, what's going on here?
I question that too. I definitely question that. But I will say back to, Acadiana specifically, Louisiana in general, but very much the Acadiana region too. Whatever it is, that energy is thick like molasses. You feel it. You sink into it like the earth. I mean, there's just a quality to it. You can't avoid it almost.
No, agreed.
And then
there
our
is something to be
proximity,
said.
The proximity to New Orleans and how many hundreds of years that was used as a port before we settled this place, in air quotes. But, it's like that all ties into it. There's pirate history here. There's Native American history and folklore. It's just generations of it.
Yeah. Island history, Germans, French, Spanish, you get the Haitian nation, there's so many different cultures all blending together, all trying to survive. Like even the Cajun history of the Acadians coming down from Canada, being rejected all the way along the coast until they got to New Orleans, and then even being shoved out of New Orleans. There's a lot of pain and tragedy that's come with that. And it's just, when you're trying to survive like that, I feel like it builds, without sounding like too hokey, it builds up psychic energy.
Yeah.
So I want to bounce off of something that you just said there. So all of the pain and the suffering that landed in Acadiana, and then there's us, who at the time, every single one, and we don't have to get into this, but at the time, every single one of us was carrying trauma.
Yeah.
So
it makes you
there's
open.
Something there that
absolutely
means that we connected to kind of the pain and anguish of the land that we were all raised on at a time when we were all going through traumas. And that's what kind of led us to do this, was the idea of, maybe there's something we can connect to here. And again, going back to that, something redemptive, something that, will restore us.
Because we're so embedded with shame here, with it being so deeply Catholic, this area, everything's a sin and wrong and shameful. And then, we were young and impressionable still, and we came together as this group of like-minded, we had sort of found our tribe, so to speak. And then we all tapped into this thing that we all believed in. And then our pain linked with the historical pain of this place, and it just sort of created this perfect summer of storm, ghost hunting, scary stories. It just exploded. And I know that we saw things. I know that we did.
I agree. I totally agree.
Yeah, it's in that 5 times I can count on my hand. I know I saw somebody fall from that church tower.
Yeah,
exactly. I know that. Yes,
I mean,
I know that we saw those sparkles on the bridge.
Yeah, I have not been to that building since the last night we went to that building, and I could tell you, if we drove there today, I could show you the spot on the ground where I saw that person land.
Yes. Because you and I think you and we got all like watery eyes, and we hit the deck at one point. I remember us like hitting the deck. And
I
then
remember
also
crouching down in the field, like walking when we were all like in
like
the grass.
moving.
Yeah.
And then us like talking with each other and saying, do we notify the police of this, or are they going to think we're crazy? Because
Yes.
yeah.
Sure did.
And then it was GTFO. I remember a few times where we had some scary moments and we're like, hit it, get out of here.
Yeah.
So the title of this episode is All My Friends Are Skeletons. And that is a line. All of the episodes have song title, or not song titles, but song lyrics for titles. And that is a lyric from Spoon Man by Soundgarden.
Soundgarden, yeah.
Because of the one night where no matter where we went, and again, for the listeners, we always did this very late at night, like midnight to 3 a.m.
Yeah.
And at that time, Sunset and Grand Coteau were very, very small communities where if you were out after midnight, you could be on one side of town, I could be on the other side of town, and I would hear you cough, that type of small town situation. But this one night, no matter where we went, that bearded dude in a white van kept showing up, and we changed the lyrics to Spoon Man to Wolf Man.
Yeah.
And so that's why I named this
I
episode.
forgot about that.
After that was because it was one of those situations of, okay, we know what we're doing out here. What the hell are you doing out here?
Right.
And why do you keep showing up everywhere we go?
Yeah, because we went from Sacred Heart in Grand Coteau and went across the highway to Sunset. I had forgotten about that, and that was scary as hell too. Because I think I remember at one point we got so freaked out by it, I like sped out of Sunset and back onto the highway. We were like, let's get out of here. It's time to go.
Yeah, and there was a one night where we were on Mary Jane's Bridge, Marlin's Bridge, and there was a car coming from the Crescent Point end.
Yep.
Which, again, for anybody listening, highly unlikely. There really, other than Crescent Point at that time, there really wasn't a whole lot of property back there. And I believe at that time the road dead ended somewhere down there. So for a car to be coming from that direction and that time of night was bizarre. And by the time you saw the lights, it was like, oh, get the fuck in the car. like everybody hustling.
We were long in car on the road, you know, and then the lure of like 3 a.m. being the witching hour was also like part of our thing, that like, oh, well, at 3 a.m. it'll all come together. Like, we have to do this, like,
Yeah. Were we all together when we went and drove really slowly by Crescent Point and we could see the curtains moving back and forth?
Yes, I remember that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. Woo!
I remember us parking in the driveway.
Yep.
And rolling the windows down.
Oh, yeah.
And it was breezy enough that you could hear the wind through the trees.
Yeah.
But then you could hear what sounded like footsteps.
It was eerily quiet beyond that, though.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Like you didn't hear bugs.
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
The bugs stopped.
Yeah, you didn't hear
doing
bugs.
That sound.
You would just hear the wind in the trees. And again, to be out in the country and not hear the bugs, not hear, coyotes, nothing, just the wind.
Stillness and
wind.
Wind.
Then to hear what sounded like somebody walking across the lawn. But there's nobody there.
Right.
We
didn't see anybody.
It's an open area. You can see the sky. So the moon shone, but you could hear footsteps. And it's one of those things of, okay, is this what I want to hear? Or is this what I'm actually hearing? And in situations like that, I mean, you can explain it away as, oh, well, it's the wind, hitting bigger trees, or whatever. But
It didn't sound like that, though,
it
either.
didn't sound like it. But then there's also the question of, you're hearing something that your brain cannot make sense of. So does your brain then create a connection in that desperation to make sense of what it doesn't understand? Do you get what I mean? Like,
Absolutely.
you're hearing what sounds like footsteps, but there's nobody there, and you shouldn't be able to hear footsteps here. So your brain is like, yeah, girl, it's footsteps. Don't worry about it, it's footsteps.
But here's the thing about that too. So thinking about the psychology and your brain making sense of it, then having a group of people having the same experience, are they bouncing off of each other to make sense of it, or are they all experiencing the exact same phenomenon, and it's a real phenomenon? I feel like there were instances of both.
Yes.
Oh yeah,
for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, definitely. There's always that when you've got a group together, and this is the type of thing that you're going into, there is always going to be that element of, I'm gonna scare the shit out of them. I can honestly say, and I swear it, I honestly mean this, I never invented anything to try to scare any of us.
Right. I didn't either.
I didn't either.
But you remember Freddie?
Yeah.
So in the car, we're
Frida.
at Mary Jane Bridge, and we have flashlights. And so Fred has a flashlight in the back seat. We drive right up to the front of the bridge before we cross over it. We do see some lights. We sit there for a long time, and we're waiting. And then one of us gets out of the car. I don't remember who it is. We had the lights on my car on, and the freaky part was the lights stopped working. Do you remember that? The lights went off, the headlights.
Yes.
I do remember that.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
So then we get back into the car, and I could have killed Fred because he scared the crap out of us, and all of a sudden the flashlight went out. He had dropped the batteries out of the flashlight. So he added to the fear. But I'll tell you, the headlights thing, I still have no explanation for that. It like the car died and then kicked back on again.
Yeah.
And my car was fine.
But that ties back to people saying that their radios would go on and off around them,
Exactly. Yeah.
So something energetically was messing with the electrical system in the car,
Right.
So you have two things at play there. You have what's legitimately happening with the headlights, and then what's being manufactured
Exactly.
with Fred dropping the batteries. So that's that. I actually have a note here to myself that when I'm watching like these paranormal investigator shows, one thing that I notice about a lot of them is the created drama to propel the storyline. And I noted, when we went into each location with the story in our heads, because we knew histories, or we'd read, Ghosts Along the Bayou, or, James's sisters had been, stepsisters had been there. We already had the stories in our heads. But we also seem to go in with a little skepticism. And so it's, it goes back to these shows that feel the need to create the drama. So
that's why I don't like them.
Yeah. Well, and that's why I don't tend to watch them so much, is because I'm like, first, you're not actually doing any real investigation.
No.
You're not doing really any history on it.
Right.
Other than just the cliched shit you've heard.
And we didn't have any instruments. We just had our senses.
Our
we got the
intuition.
frisson.
Yes. Yes, we did. But that's exactly it. It's like So we went into all of this just looking for that sensation on the skin, or the heart beating faster,
Or the feeling in the stomach.
yeah, or the feeling in your stomach, the hair on the back of your neck, that, you know, and yeah, we knew the stories, but we didn't try to craft it.
Right.
You know, we didn't try to craft the experience.
It was there.
And go there. We just went and said, "We're here."
Yeah,
We were
it
like
was
the
there.
four.
Yeah.
We were like
And
the
Milena.
four boys from
Yeah.
different seasons. Let's go see a dead body.
Yeah. And like Milena, I mean, the way I recall it, that first mission with you and I don't recall either of us seeing this orb first. I remember us seeing it at the same time and looking at each other with like cartoon character eyes, like, woo, ah! And, you know, and being like, what in the absolute fuck is that? So we pull over, and then we sort of like gathered, like, do we have the courage to get out of the car to seek this? Like, I can do it if you can do it. Like, let's do this.
Yeah.
I love that you brought that up too, James, because getting out of the car was a serious dare on these adventures.
Yeah.
You want to get out? Okay. And we would like sneak out of the door. I remember one time I remember me sliding against the front hood to get closer and closer, and then you'd back up again. That was a dare.
Because the car was our safety. So like,
exactly. That was our fortress.
And it's inexplicable. I don't know why the car felt like it was this safe thing, you know? But it was.
I don't know either. But yeah, that was always the thing, is if we can get back in the car, we're fine.
Yeah, it's like those little pods that you go down into the ocean.
Yeah.
It was like a little protective bubble.
Yeah.
So would y'all agree, like, geographically in this area that we were traversing at 3 a.m. 32 years ago in our early 20s or late teens, like, there are vortexes here. Like, there are time warp places.
Yeah.
You know, I mean,
absolutely.
I believe that we encountered that. And, you know, it was a bridge into the past. And, you know, I remember like seeing gallows swinging on branches beneath the Spanish moss, and we saw the guy falling from the church tower. We saw curtains moving in Craychamp Point. Like, we saw things, and I truly believe we saw. Like, I do, because we felt.
I do too. I do too. I mean, yeah, there are times when I was like, we're just kidding ourselves, but I could think of maybe 4 or 5 times myself where I was like, there's no other explanation for what happened here, and especially the fact that we all experienced it.
Yeah, and you know, I think there were nights that we were like looking for bullshit and it didn't happen. So we were just like, well, tonight was a dud. Like, we didn't. Yeah,
because there are times, because we would go to some of these places. This is more for anybody listening. We would go to some of these places multiple times on different nights. So there were multiple times that we were on Mary Jane's Bridge, Marlin's Bridge.
It's Mary Jane Bridge. We always call it that.
We called it, So there were multiple times that we'd be on that bridge, and there were some nights where it was just downright lovely out there, and the air felt light. And there was a nice breeze, and you're on this little bridge, you know, little wooden planked bridge over a little creek, and it was just lovely. Yeah. And there were nights that you'd be out there where it felt so heavy, just the air.
Heavy is the right word.
Is just so heavy to where none of us would speak. We would just be there. And then there were nights where we tried to scare the shit out of each other. I'm not naming names, James. When my friend Bo from California came into town, and y'all actually crept on the side of the freaking road in the ditch and waited, and then jumped out and scared the holy bejesus out of us on the front.
I remember that.
So,
I remember that.
There were like James said, there were times where we were out there looking for bullshit and didn't find it. And I think that speaks to the fact that we were going out there blank slates. we weren't going to create the drama. I mean, yeah, we might try to, try to, scare each other, but
we were truly exploring.
We didn't create a situation of, oh, did you see that?
No,
usually
we were receptive.
It would almost always be collective.
Yes.
Which is, again,
we felt it together.
Yeah. And we were receptive, you know?
We wanted it. I mean, we were wanting it to, we wanted to see something.
Yeah, we were open to it. I will say, I wish, looking back, that we could have gotten to a point where we don't need all the instruments or everything, but even just journaling or tracking what we experienced. Because I wonder with the Mary Jane Bridge, if there were certain times of the year or certain types of nights that made the difference. Because you're right, Melina, it was like sometimes it was lovely, sometimes it was fine and it was just a fun summer night, and sometimes there was that weight. And it was like a fog that just sunk right on top of you. We were thick in it, and there was no explaining to it. And I really wish I knew what the conditions were that made that happen.
Yeah, was it like anniversaries of trauma? And
exactly.
Yeah.
See, and it's funny because, kind of going back to, the history that James, discussed of the Acadiana area, and Karen talking about the pain, being deposited. We all know New Orleans has a lot of ghosts.
Right.
I've been on the haunted tours in New Orleans. I have walked down the freaking roads all through the quarter, all through the night. I never feel the same energy in New Orleans that I do when I'm home.
Yeah.
There, and no matter what reason I have gone home, there is always this.
There's a connection, right?
It's a connection, but it's just this energy that kind of, Karen said it the best with you sink into the earth when you go out there.
In your chest.
You just,
you feel it in your stomach
about it. And you can be going for a happy thing like a wedding or somebody had a new baby. And the minute my feet step out, if I'm flying in, as soon as I exit Lafayette Airport, there it is.
It's death, sadness, and pain. You feel
but history too.
It's just, it's like your feet immediately spring roots and just dig in.
And I actually loved that. I have lived in so many places, so there's a positive and negative side to it. The trauma side, that's the sadness and pain. But the other side is there is a certain element where you feel like you have roots. Not just the family roots, but like physical roots. And I always felt like I was so much more connected to the ground there than I am here. Even though, I do feel it some here. It wasn't the same. And even in New Orleans, where I've had a couple of interesting experiences, like Pirate Alley on the side of the cathedral, I've had some feelings there. It's not the same. There's a disconnect there that you get a different experience in Lafayette and around Acadiana, where it, again, you sink into it, you connect to it.
And it's almost like you're walking back in time with these spirits. Like,
absolutely.
You're not in current time. You're or 200
you flash
years
back.
ago. Yeah. And that ties in with the vortex idea. Like almost time travel.
Yeah.
I'd love to study and measure that. Something has to be there to be able to actually say, there is some sort of unique energy, and here are the boundaries of it. I would love to know that.
So who wants to come to Mary Jane's Bridge with me tonight?
That'd be great.
Maybe a bit of a drive.
All right, and with that,
would be
I am
great.
Yeah, I mean, that was, if I could jump on the plane right now. But I am going to go ahead and take that as a good wrap up point. We are off to Mary Jane's Bridge. But I want to thank my dear friends, James, Karen, and Lena, for joining me on this episode. And I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think this marks the first time that we have all been together in some way, shape, or form in a few decades.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And yeah, go ahead.
Does anyone want to like share socials with the audience?
Yeah,
So
I
they
mean,
can
more than,
look
yeah,
us up?
you are more than welcome, because I know you guys, have your own things that you do. Go for it, James.
Yeah. Instagram handle is jludeau, Ludeau. So the letter J, Ludeau. And, I post about these things, and I post about South Louisiana. I've been doing like little trips through Bro Bridge, and this weekend, tomorrow, I'm going to Brancato. So, I've been sort of like presenting the architecture, bent through some of my beliefs. So it ties back into us. And, I have like revisited the early 90s me. I am back in Army surplus clothes, except with the Southwestern flair to it. So like, I'm still in that headspace, I mean, those kids that we were in the cars 32 years ago in the middle of the night, though all of us still exist.
Yeah.
So,
That's
I think
true.
we leave a piece of ourselves on that bridge,
Oh, yeah.
So our energy will perpetuate that to continue in the future as well.
Nice.
So I apologize for anyone who goes to that bridge then.
No,
That's true.
it wasn't me.
So I don't have a lot of social media.
I don't.
I live in a totally separate world during the day. But this is reviving all of those great memories, and I haven't changed that much either. I don't have my lovely silk skirts I used to wear, unfortunately, but I still have the ruby red lips, so there you go. Some things don't change. But yeah, I mean, you're actually inspiring me to want to like tell more of these stories too. Maybe
I
I'll
have
start.
one final question for everyone.
Go for it.
Are y'all ready?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What about a moon pie?
I still think of that all the time. I'll say that to my kids, and they're like, "What are you talking about?" I'm like, "Don't worry about it."
I've had the same thing. Like, never mind.
Yeah.
That or what's the biscuit one?
Oh.
On a biscuit.
Yeah.
Love you like a biscuit?
Love you like a
Love
biscuit.
you like a
Yeah.
biscuit.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Memories.
Oh, I love this. Perfect timing. So just
Awesome.
thank you all for giving me your time and your perspective on this. And I love you like a biscuit, and we will get together again soon.
All right.
Excellent. Maybe we can do a Salem day.
Ah,
Go
nice.
do a Salem trip.
Yeah. We'll do this again.
Yeah,
All right.
Definitely.
Love you guys.
Love y'all.
Thank you.
Bye. To all the ghosties tuned in out there, thank you for listening. And remember, if I know nothing else about what happens after this life, I do know this. I'm a haunt.